Hey, it's Justin. Today I'm going to walk you through one of my favorite features of Flipwise, which is the Sales and Inventory Insights screen. So you're looking at the dashboard right now. If I scroll down to the main navigation on the bottom, under Insights, you're going to see Sales and Inventory. If I click on that, you're going to see a bunch of visualizations and graphs that are going to be super helpful to make it easy to understand how your reselling business is performing. I'm going to walk through all of this and just tell you what it all means, but at any time, you can click this question mark up top and you will have a link to read more. That'll take you to a help page, which gives you definitions of everything that I'm going to talk through. So don't feel like you need to capture everything I say right now. So on top, you're going to see the gross sales and net sales calculations. Gross sales is your total sales on eBay. Flipwise aligns itself to the tax report on eBay. And so eBay has several different reports, a sales report, a financial report, a tax report, and each one of those reports on the eBay side uses its own calculations for gross sales amount, and even eBay's own reports don't match each other for your gross sales. And so with Flipwise, we decided to align all of our calculations to a single metric using a single formula, and that is using eBay's tax formula. So if you're wondering why there's a difference between your gross sales amount that you see on Flipwise and on eBay, that's the reason, is because, again, eBay has three different reporting mechanisms. They don't all use the same formula to calculate gross sales, and we're using the tax formula from eBay. So you can see here for the last 7 days, I've sold $890 in gross sales. By the way, the default is 7 days, and you can change the time frame, which we'll get to in a second. And the net sales of $576. So the net sales is basically taking your gross and deducting all of your expenses. So your cost of goods sold, your eBay fees, and shipping costs, and anything else that's related to your orders is being deducted from that net sales. Importantly, it's not deducting any ledger entries. And so if you've recorded any general business expenses or anything like that, it's not going to show up on your sales report unless that ledger entry is associated with a sold item in your inventory. And if you want to see your gross and net sales, including the ledger entries, the general business expenses, you would want to do that through the income statement, but I'll save that for the income statement video. Anyway, gross sales, net sales, you can hover over this graph and you can see all the different days, and you'll be able to also see how each day performed from a gross and net sale perspective. And scrolling down, we have a couple different modules. The first one here is the average gross per sale. So that's on a per sale basis, a per order basis. What is the average value of an order for the last 7 days? And so on average, my gross sale is $46.86 per sale, and the average net per sale is $30.33. The net profit margin, that is the difference between your gross sales and net sales amount right there. That's your net profit margin. So it's a good indicator of how much of the money that you generate through your gross sales you're actually taking home, that net profit margin. We also have average net profit margin per sale. And so each sale has its own net profit margin, and we average out those net profit margins across all the sales to get this average net profit margin per sale. And you might find that these are going to be different sometimes, and that's usually like if you have an average net profit margin that's lower than the net profit margin here on the left, that typically means that you have some sales that had a pretty low net profit margin. It's bringing down that total average below where the net profit margin is, just comparing your gross and net sales. Scrolling down, we have the net return by source. And so this is going to show you your net return, basically this number up here, your net sales, your net return broken up by where you sourced the inventory that was sold. And so you can see for the last 7 days, most of the net return for my sales are coming from this bulk buy that I made, almost $300 worth, followed by garage sales, estate sales, another bulk buy, some inventory a friend gave me, and then finally a thrift store, Savers. And so, you're just, as long as you're giving your inventory the purchase location, Flipwise is going to generate this net return by source here. So you'll be able to see, exactly which of your sourcing locations is performing the best for a given time period. Moving on, we have a listings by source. So these are new listings that I've put up on eBay broken down by the sourcing location, the purchase location. So in the last 7 days, I've listed 15 items, and they've all been from the same place, and this is all one single bulk buy. And so if I've sourced from many different places, this chart would look very different, and I'll show you that in a second. Over here on the right is the active listings by list price. And so this graph breaks down the value of the inventory that you've listed, so the list value, and shows you that. And so you can see here, and hovering over it will show you how many's in there. You can see over the last 7 days, I've listed 4 items that are priced between 20 and 50, 1 item that's between 100 and 200, and 5 items between 50 and $100. Below that, you're going to see net return by marketplace. And so you can record, so obviously Flipwise is going to automatically ingest all of your sales from eBay in particular automatically, but it does allow you to record sales manually for any other marketplace. And so if you have recorded sales for any other marketplace other than eBay, you would see those here. I haven't, so that's why there's just eBay there. The next row here is going to be the total amount spent on new inventory. So over the last 7 days, I've spent $193 purchasing new inventory. The cost of goods sold, so everything that's sold over the last 7 days, the purchase price of that inventory was $69.80. I've spent $113 on marketplace fees. So that takes all of your marketplace fees and ad fees, anything, any of the fees from eBay, and adds them together for this particular time period. Also, if you're selling on a different marketplace that's not eBay and you're recording those fees as well, it will show up on marketplace fees too. And then finally, shipping label costs. So I've spent $131 on shipping labels over the last 7 days. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Following that, you're going to have another graph here, which is your sales versus new listings. And so in orange, you'll see the number of new listings I've made over the last 7 days, and in green, the number of sales that I've had over the last 7 days. And it's nice to see these grouped together so you can kind of see the impact that listing has on sales. You can see here, I've had several days where I have not been listing. That's not good. But on Sunday, listed 10. That's great. And I've been sort of keeping up again this week with listing 5 on Tuesday, and today's Wednesday. And over that same time period, I've had 19 sales here. You can see on Sunday, I got skunked and didn't sell anything. Below that, you're going to have a couple of interesting modules here. This is average time to list. And so this is taking your purchase date and it's comparing it to the list date. And for everything that's been listed over the last 7 days, on average, it's taken me 2 days to list that inventory. And so the lower, the better. You want to keep stuff out of your death pile. The higher, it means you're pulling stuff that you've purchased a long time ago, but it's taken you a long time to list. So you want to get that number as low as possible, ideally. And then you have average time to sell, and that compares the list date with the purchase date or the order date. And so on average, the age of my inventory that sold over the last 7 days had been listed for 5 months. That's on average. Over here, you have the return on investment. And so that just takes the investment that you've made over the last 7 days and gives you the return on that. And so how much money have you spent, over the last 7 days, and what's the return on investment on that in the last 7 days? And then similar to average net profit margin, we have an average ROI per sale. And so that's taking, we calculate an ROI for every single sale that happens. And then we average out those ROIs to get this average ROI per sale. Scrolling back up to the top, we're going to talk through the date filtering here. So again, it defaults to the last 7 days. You can change that just to today. Looks like I've had no sales today. Yesterday, I had $318 and $241 in sales. You can go last week. The week starts on Monday, by the way. The Flipwise week starts on Monday. Last month, and so we're in February, so this would be showing January sales for me. You can also do last year, so this is the entirety of last year. And I'll scroll down here so you can see some of these graphs are going to be a little bit more interesting on these larger time frames. You can see top 10 sources by net return. Garage sales last year were my #1 sourcing location, so I love going to garage sales and I make a lot of money from them. In fact, I make about $8,500 from them. And it just breaks down the top 10 there. You can see here listings by source. I've listed or sourced from a lot of different places. Active listings by price. Pretty interesting to look at that. I only sold on eBay. You can see how much money I've spent on new inventory, cost of goods sold, $7,700 in marketplace fees, $10,000 on shipping labels. You can see my new listing volume compared to my new sales volume, and all of these metrics are going to show just on really any time frame you give it. And speaking of time frames, you can also do a custom time frame too, so you could go back to any time. If I could say I want to see July 2nd through August 20th. Well, I have no idea why, but there you go. But during that time, I grossed almost $6,000 and netted $3,200. So that's about it. That's the sales insight and inventory screen.